My name is Abe Gutovitz. I was born in town Warka, and then my father moved to the town in Poland. That was about 10 kilometers from that town to the other town. Białobrzegi is the name from the other town. We lived there for quite a while.
How soon after Hitler came to power did you begin to think that the Jews were in trouble?
They took over Poland September 1st, 1939. 3 days. They was marching in our town. It was a terrible thing what was going on. You know, every night they killed in our town. Even before they made the clear out from my town, they took out Jews, the richer Jews, you know, and killed them all. They took out our rabbi in our town.
What year was this when this started?
In our town started 1942. Till 1942, from 1939 till 1942, everybody lived in his places. They took out a lot of people every day to work for them, you know. Some of them got beaten, but they didn't kill us during the war. I never worked for them outside. We had in our house, we have the whole schlemiel, you know. We was working for them. My father had 12 people working. We worked for them the officer boots, and then they brought measurements for the wives and for the kids. You know, we had a lot of leather, you know. We had a small little factory, but people was working for us. And before the Germans came over, we still had the same 12 people working because we had good business there. Boots, you know, children's shoes, women's shoes, all kinds of shoes. And then when they came over, they took us under their to please them, to make for them everything. We couldn't sell anything. We couldn't. This is what we had. We had plenty of money, in you know, stacked away, and we lived on it. If they catched you with some money in your house or what, you already got shot. That was in 1942. Yes, the year 1942. In September, about the 17th was it. From the SS came an order to leave the town. It was still a very hot day, so somebody knocked on my door. Abe, my name is Abe, you know. Get up, because we have to leave town. So my first thing, I went to my father and mother. It was about a block away. And then my oldest brother, he had 2 nice boys already. One boy 8 years, one boy 9 years. And I waked them up, and we went out on a certain place, you know. It was called, like here's the city market, you know, a round, big place, and we concentrate there. So the assessment came out. My brothers, 2 brothers, was working for them already. Barbers, you know. They was barbers, the younger brothers and me. So me and my father and my oldest brother, we produced them the boots, you know, for the gendarmerie, you know what gendarmerie is, for the SS. And then they came out and looked at us because we still was in our homes, you know. Even they evacuated some people from the main street, but our street was not evacuated, the main, like ghetto, it was not. The main streets they evacuated, and we was still living in our places. I was good fat, and I was beautiful in that time, you know. I was in that time about 24 years old and well-dressed. So the SS picked us up, me and my 2 brothers, to work. So they evacuated us from that town to Skarżysko-Kamienno. That was an ammunition factory. They didn't kill me or my brothers and take them to the gas chamber. That was to Treblanka. You heard about Treblanka? In Auschwitz. That was the biggest in Poland. Gas chambers. So they took the whole town to Treblanka, I think, because one guy escaped from there when we was in that Skarżysko Kamienno on that ammunition factory. So they took us out, and one escaped and said that from our town they went to the gas chamber that day. And then after that we went to Skarżysko Kamienno. Then came out a big 3 officers from the SS. So they picked us up to, they was called Werk A. Werk means in the factory A. It was the second B factory. And C, the factory A, we made the ammunition, but we didn't fill it with trottle. Trottle is the name of it, like what gives out the sound, you know, of it, what kills. That was so powder. So this was the best factory, what we went, we 3 brothers. And then he wanted to separate us, the officer. So I knew a little Deutsch. I told him, so-and-so, we are brothers from my whole family, and I don't want to be separate with them. He looked at me like with the big eyes. He didn't answer me one word. And the end was it, he took us together in that Werk A, that's mean A, that was the best and the nicest factory. You couldn't die so quick there, you know, because C was not so bad. No, after A is B. B was not so bad, but 100% worse than B was. C was the worst. You couldn't live there more than 3 months from that food what they gave you for 7 people, 1 small loaf of bread in a cup of water. You couldn't live long. It's working very hard. We stayed in that ammunition factory. We stayed from 1942 to 1944. Then my one brother worked night shift. He was the middle one next to me. They couldn't take him out because the Russians was bombarding, you know, all the way around. They couldn't take him out because he worked in day shift. He was in the factory. We worked in the night shift. We was sleeping in the barracks, you know. So me and my youngest brother, they took us and sent us to Buchenwald. In Buchenwald, the train was going approximately, but not quite a month. I remember the date when they took that house. Not quite a month. When we went into that train, they gave us a loaf of bread for each person. It was about 700 or 800 people on that train. We arrived to Buchenwald, we was about 260. And then they died, a lot of them there too, from one loaf of bread. You know, they couldn't move the trains because the Russians was bombarding all the way around. So can you imagine, it took about 2 hours. We went in that train not quite a month. And people was dying and dying. They throw them out, dying and dying, you know, not water, not food. I arrived to Buchenwald, was December 14, 1944. And I was liberated April 11 in Buchenwald, 1945. So I was there a few days, less than 4 months, and my weight got down to 51 pounds, not kilos, pounds. You know, at the doctor buildings, sometimes you see the skeletons, you know, just skin in bones. That's how I looked in that time. But I was always strong. I had a heart like a steel. I can say it today. That's how I survived. And when we came to Buchenwald, they gave us everything, you know, the striped suits with a pair of wooden shoes, and that's what we was. The worst thing we had in Buchenwald, they waked us up at 5 o'clock in the morning. It was winter, it's bitter cold there on a big hill. It was Buchenwald. Buchenwald means in Germany, Wald is like a forest. A forest was around a forest. Anyway, a week before the evacuation, they start to evacuate the people. So they start to evacuate. They saw that they lose in the war. They start to evacuate from the barracks, you know what the barracks, but we was living in it. And then they start to pushing the people, farther and farther to go through the gate. And after the gate, they left the gate, so was setting machine guns and killed them off, They didn't want the world to see what they did to the people. So I had my brother there. I told him, Jack, his name was Israel and Jewish. So I talked to him, and before we went to do something, I talked to him, Jack, please do me one favor. I'm older than you. You better listen to me. If we survived, you will look for me, and I will look for you till I find you. If we survive, please don't move. Don't go through the gate ever. You hear the machine guns running with the bullets, and they kill you. Don't go. So I didn't see him anymore in that place where we were standing and pushing. He sneaked out to the barrack, what he was. I was not in the same barrack with him. You couldn't do that. They separate. So somehow, under the ground in that barrack was a hole, and he hid it there. That was after the war, what I found out. But the first thing what I remember from my concentration camps, it was not, I could survive everywhere, but in Buchenwald it was very hard to survive from one piece bread. And then when the assessment turned over in the other side, it was hundreds of people, in the bunch there on that place. And he turned to the other end to pushing and beating the people, and pushing and beating. There was 3 of them, one in the middle, one in every edge, When he went to the other edge, helping that other guy, something happened there. Or the guy was fall down or something, or somebody beat him. Or I didn't see, I couldn't hear because it was big, a big territory. So when he moved in the other corner, I laid down on the ground and crawled on my knees and on my hand. It was laying hundreds of people in the left side where I was, dead bodies, and I covered me with the bodies. And just leave my nose with the eyes, a little bit to see. And I was there. And hear all the noises and beaten. So finally, I don't remember when you asked me what I ate yesterday, but this I will remember all my life. I will never forget that. That was a Wednesday afternoon, about 2 o'clock. April 11, 1945. I saw the tanks, American, running in the streets, in Buchenwald. But I couldn't move away. I couldn't push away. I didn't feel my right arm. I didn't feel my left arm. Everything was numb. I couldn't move my legs at all. I was 7 nights and 8 days covered with the bodies without a drop of water. So help me God, I don't say one word, but it's not true. And I kept talking to me, oh my God, that will be mine end. I prayed all the years to live and see the end of that bastard, and now I have to die. Keep talking. And I start to work with the fingers, and I start to do everything in my power. I couldn't feel nothing in me. Everything was numb. Finally, my left arm started to wiggle one finger. I said, oh my gosh, maybe I will do something. And then I was working with that finger, and then start the other, and I start with the two fingers, work on my right arm, because my left arm I couldn't lift up to see the tank, somebody to grab me or help me. Finally, I got a miracle from God or something. It happened. I still believe in God. That it happened to me. It started to work on my right fingers too. And I took my right arm, because my left arm was much weaker, and pushing, and wiggling with two fingers only, not all of them. And then start another finger, just three, and pushing, then pass through a tank. And so he said, somebody's alive there. He stopped the tank and took me out. They took me to the nearest town, was Weimar. Nearest town from Buchenwald was called Weimar. It's in the map in Germany. They took me to a sanatorium that was an American soldiers, wounded. I stayed there not long. They sent me to Munich, Germany, to a big sanatorium. And I remember one thing. It was standing above me on the whole body, was standing bottles above me through my veins, feeding, I don't know what they did. Talking I could, but at that time I couldn't move, and I catch up too fast. And then I start looking for my brother. When they took me out there, I said, I'm not going to leave here. I'm going to, this is the barrack they passed through. And I said, no, I don't want to go down. I'm not going nowhere till I find my brother. Finally, in that tank was a major. In the tank was a major, a Polak. He could talk Polish. So I started talking to him Polish. He took me out, so helped me God from that tank, and I couldn't walk. They took me and so things what they taking the people what they cannot walk or they dead. How you call these?
A stretcher?
Yeah, put me on and took two soldiers. So they took me to that barrack, and I went to that barrack, and I kept screaming, Jack, I'm alive. The video call, the gloss was heard far away, because nothing was in that barracks, was empty, was a funny voice, that hearing. So finally, he crawled out from that hole there under the barracks, and they took us both to the sanatorium. I remember just one thing, for 3 months, then I start to get better. And my brother, he recuperated a little earlier because he was about 4 years younger than me. And after 6 months, they took me out from the sanatorium and sent me to Fernwald. That was also a wald. It's a forest, like a forest all the way around. Big houses, big barracks. And only Polish people was there. We stayed 6 weeks in that Fernwald. Then came URO or UNRWA, they called themselves. And whoever was a Jew, they took us to Landsberg am Lech. And we stayed in Landsberg am Lech for a while. Then over there we stayed. And finally my uncle found out. I had an uncle here. he found out that we are alive. He worked out papers through the government. He paid for everything. He took us, all them three brothers.
What year was that?
That was in 1949.